I never thought I'd become the kind of woman who checks her boyfriend's phone or follows cars in the dark. But when you're 68 years old and you discover that the man who whispers, "I love you," in your ear is saying the same words to your own sister, something breaks inside you. And then something else, something sharper, something smarter, takes its place. This is the story of how I caught them, how I planned my revenge, and how I made sure everyone knew the truth. Real-life inspired emotional stories from USA, Canada, UAE, and Europe, filled with truth, betrayal, love, and redemption. Each story touches the soul and reveals what really happens behind closed doors. Before I begin my story, let me know in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is. I just want to know I'm not alone in this. And if you feel moved by what you hear, consider subscribing to Golden Year Stories. It helps more people become aware of the reality of elder abuse. Now let me tell you what really happened. My name is Margaret Thompson, but everyone calls me Maggie. I'm 68 years old, and for most of my life, I've been the sensible one, the peacemaker, the woman who smoothed over family arguments at Thanksgiving and remembered everyone's birthdays. I spent 35 years as a school librarian in Portland, Oregon, helping children find the right books and teaching them that stories have patterns, beginnings, middles, and ends. What I didn't know then was that my own story was about to take a turn I never saw coming. It was a Sunday morning in late April when everything started to unravel. The sun was streaming through my kitchen window, catching the dust motes in the air like tiny dancers. I was making coffee and thinking about absolutely nothing important, whether to plant tomatoes or peppers in my garden, if I needed to pick up milk at the store. Normal thoughts, safe thoughts. My daughter Claire was coming over for brunch, which always made me happy. At 42, she's everything I hoped she'd be, strong, successful, and still willing to spend time with her old mother. She works in marketing, lives 2 hours away in Eugene, but she makes the drive every other weekend. After her father died 5 years ago, she worried about me being alone. That's actually how I met Robert Mitchell. Even now, saying his name leaves a bitter taste in my mouth. I met Rob 3 years ago at a community center dance class. I'd signed up because Claire kept insisting I needed to get out there and meet people. I wasn't looking for romance. Honestly, I wasn't sure I even believed in it anymore. Not after 42 years of marriage to Harold, not after watching him slowly disappear to cancer. How do you replace a love like that? But Rob was charming. That's the word everyone used. He was 70 tall with silver hair that he wore swept back. And he had this way of making you feel like you were the only person in the room. He'd been an insurance agent before retiring, and he knew how to talk, how to listen, how to make you laugh when you didn't think you had any laughter left inside you. We started dating slowly. Coffee after dance class turned into dinner dates. Dinner dates turned into weekend trips to the coast. He never rushed me, never pushed for more than I was ready to give. He seemed to understand grief, having lost his own wife 10 years earlier. Or at least that's what he told me. Now I wonder how much of anything he said was true. The doorbell rang just as I was pulling the cinnamon rolls from the oven. Claire came in with her usual energy, her dark hair pulled back in a ponytail, carrying a bag of fresh fruit from the farmer's market. "Mom," she called out, kicking off her shoes. "Something smells amazing." "Your favorites," I said, hugging her tight. She smelled like lavender and coffee, familiar and comforting. We settled at the kitchen table with our plates, and she started telling me about her week. A difficult client, a presentation that went well, her plans to repaint her apartment. Normal conversation. The kind of easy back and forth we'd been having for years. "So how's Rob?" she asked, taking a bite of cinnamon roll. There was something in her tone I couldn't quite place. Not disapproval exactly, but not enthusiasm either. "He's good," I said. "He's been traveling a lot for work lately. Consulting jobs, you know. He was in Seattle most of last week." Claire nodded slowly, her fork pausing halfway to her mouth. "Consulting. I thought he was retired. He is, mostly. But he picks up contract work here and there. Insurance companies need experienced people to train their new agents." It sounded reasonable when I said it. Rob had explained it all very clearly. "It keeps him busy." Claire set down her fork. "And Aunt Linda? Have you talked to her lately?" The question caught me off guard. Linda was my younger sister, 64, and we'd always had a complicated relationship. Growing up, she was the pretty one, the popular one, the one who got attention without trying. I was the bookish older sister, always in her shadow. As adults, we'd found a kind of peace, or so I thought, but lately she'd been distant. Not much, I admitted. She's been busy. She missed Easter dinner, and she didn't come to book club last month. I've called a few times, but she says she's just overwhelmed with work. Linda worked part-time at a boutique downtown, selling expensive scarves and jewelry to tourists. It was hardly demanding work, but I didn't push. Everyone has their own struggles. That's weird, Claire said, frowning. She's usually the first one to show up at family things. I know. I've been worried about her, actually. Maybe I should drive over to her apartment. Check in on her. Claire was quiet for a moment, studying her plate. Then she looked up at me with those dark eyes that were so much like her father's. Mom, can I ask you something? And I want you to really think about the answer. My stomach tightened. Of course, honey. What is it? Do you trust Rob? The question hung in the air between us like smoke. Do I trust him? I wanted to say yes immediately, to defend him, to ask why she would even wonder. But something stopped me. Some small voice in the back of my mind that I'd been ignoring for weeks. Why would you ask me that? I said instead. Claire sighed and reached across the table to take my hand. I don't know. I get a weird feeling about him sometimes. The way he's always traveling, the way he's so vague about where he's been. And you seem different lately. Quieter. I'm fine, I said automatically. Rob is good to me, he makes me happy. But even as I said it, I wasn't sure it was true anymore. Over the past few months, something had shifted. Rob was gone more often. He was distracted when we were together, always checking his phone, cutting our dates short because of sudden emergencies. I'd told myself it was just work, just stress, just life. But what if it wasn't? Okay, Claire said, though I could tell she didn't believe me. I just want you to be careful. You deserve someone who's honest with you. We changed the subject after that, but her words stayed with me long after she left. Do you trust Rob? I didn't want to think about it. I didn't want to become the suspicious, paranoid woman who questions everything. But that night, alone in my house, I couldn't stop thinking about all the little things that didn't quite add up. The next morning was Monday, and Rob had promised to take me to lunch. We were supposed to meet at our favorite Italian restaurant at noon. I spent the morning trying to shake off the unease from my conversation with Claire, telling myself I was being silly, that everything was fine. I arrived at the restaurant 5 minutes early, which was typical for me. I'm always early. Harold used to joke that I'd show up early to my own funeral. The hostess seated me at our usual table by the window, and I ordered water while I waited. Noon came and went. 10 minutes. 15 at 12:20, my phone buzzed with a text from Rob. So sorry, sweetheart. Emergency meeting came up. Have to cancel lunch. We'll make it up to you this weekend. Promise. I stared at the message, feeling a familiar mixture of disappointment and resignation. This was the third time in 2 weeks he'd cancelled plans at the last minute. I typed back a simple, okay, no problem, and ordered a salad for myself, eating alone while couples and families laughed at the tables around me. I was just finishing my meal when I glanced out the window, and my heart stopped. There, walking down the sidewalk across the street, was Linda, my sister. She was laughing, her head thrown back in that carefree way she had. And she wasn't alone. She was walking arm in arm with a tall, silver-haired man in a blue jacket. Rob's blue jacket, the one I'd bought him for Christmas. They were walking close together, too close. The way couples walk when they're comfortable with each other, when they've walked together 100 times before. I watched, frozen, as they stopped at the corner. Rob said something that made Linda laugh again, and then, God help me, he leaned down and kissed her cheek. Not a friendly peck, not a sibling kiss. It was tender. The way he kissed me, the restaurant spun around me. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. My sister and my boyfriend, walking together in the middle of the day when he was supposed to be in an emergency meeting. And she was supposed to be at work. I paid my bill with shaking hands and walked out to my car. I sat in the driver's seat for a long time, gripping the steering wheel, trying to make sense of what I'd just seen. There had to be an explanation. Maybe they'd run into each other by chance. Maybe Rob was helping Linda with something. Maybe I was seeing things that weren't there. But deep down, In that place where we keep the truths we don't want to acknowledge, I knew. I knew. That evening, I did something I'd never done before in my life. When Rob called to apologize again for missing lunch, I told him it was fine, that I understood, that we'd see each other soon. My voice was calm, pleasant, betraying nothing. And then, after we hung up, I drove to Linda's apartment. I parked down the street where my car wouldn't be visible from her windows. I felt ridiculous, like some character in a detective movie, skulking in the shadows. But I waited, and 45 minutes later, I saw what I needed to see. Rob's car pulled into the parking lot. He got out, looked around cautiously, and walked up to Linda's door. He didn't knock. He used a key. He had a key to my sister's apartment. The door opened and Linda appeared, wearing a silky robe I'd never seen before. She pulled him inside, and the door closed behind them. I sat in my car until the streetlights came on, until the spring evening turned cool and dark. And that's when I made my decision. I wasn't going to confront them. Not yet. I wasn't going to cry or scream or fall apart. I was going to do something much more effective. I was going to catch them. Document everything. And then I was going to expose them in front of the entire family. Some people might say revenge is beneath us, that it's petty or cruel. But when you've been betrayed by the two people who were supposed to love you most, when you've been made a fool of while they laughed behind your back, revenge isn't petty. Revenge is justice. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in my bed, staring at the ceiling, watching shadows move across the plaster as car headlights passed outside. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw them. Rob's hand on Linda's back, the way she'd smiled up at him, the casual intimacy of that key sliding into her door lock like it belonged there. How long had this been going on? Months? Years? Had they been laughing at me the whole time? I thought back through every family gathering, every holiday dinner, every moment when the three of us had been in the same room together. Had there been signs I'd missed? Looks exchanged when I wasn't paying attention? Secret touches under the table. The worst part wasn't even the betrayal itself. It was the realization that I'd been completely blind. Me, Margaret Thompson, who'd spent decades teaching children to analyze stories, to look for patterns and clues, to question what they read. I hadn't seen what was happening in my own life. But I was seeing it now. And I was going to make sure everyone else saw it too. At 6 a.m, I gave up on sleep and made coffee. My hands were steadier than I expected as I poured the water, measured the grounds, and pushed the button. While the coffee maker gurgled and hissed, I sat at my kitchen table with a notebook and pen. The old-fashioned kind, because some things are too important to trust to a computer screen. At the top of the page I wrote, evidence. Then I started making a list of everything I knew. Everything I'd noticed, everything that suddenly made sense in this horrible new light. The pearl bracelet. That's where it had really started, though I hadn't recognized it at the time. 2 months ago, Rob had given me a beautiful pearl bracelet for my birthday. It came in a blue velvet box, and he'd made a whole production of the gift, telling me how the pearls reminded him of my grace and elegance. I'd been touched. I'd worn it to every special occasion since then. But 3 weeks ago, at Sunday brunch at Aunt Beatrice's house, I'd noticed Linda wearing an identical bracelet. Exactly the same size pearls, the same silver clasp, even the same blue velvet box sitting on the entryway table when she was taking off her coat. I'd asked her about it, trying to keep my voice light and curious. That's a beautiful bracelet, Linda. Where did you get it? She'd flinched just slightly, but I'd seen it. Oh, this? I bought it for myself. It looks just like mine, I'd said, holding up my wrist. Does it? She'd barely glanced at them. I guess the style is popular. You know how these boutiques all carry similar things. The conversation had moved on, but something had nagged at me. Now I understood. Rob had bought 2 identical bracelets, one for his girlfriend, one for his secret girlfriend. How economical, how efficient. I wondered if he'd gotten a bulk discount. I wrote it down in my notebook. Matching pearl bracelets. Same style, same box, what else? I forced myself to think, to remember, to put together the puzzle pieces I'd been ignoring. The business trips to Seattle. Rob had been taking them once or twice a month for the past 6 months. He said he was consulting for an insurance company up there, training new agents. But now I remembered. Linda had been unavailable during those same weekends. She'd stopped coming to family dinners, claiming she was working extra shifts or had plans with friends. I wrote, coordinating schedules, Seattle trips to Linda's absences, the restaurants. Rob always took me to nice places. He was generous that way, or so I'd thought. But I'd noticed that he always paid in cash. The points on my credit card aren't as good, he'd explained. Cash back is better for these amounts. It had seemed reasonable at the time. Now I realized he was covering his tracks. No credit card statements for a suspicious girlfriend to find. No paper trail. I wrote, always pays cash. No receipts. The phone calls. How many times had Rob's phone rung when we were together? And he'd glanced at the screen and said, just work. I'll call them back later. How many times had he excused himself to take a call in another room? How many times had he kept his phone face down on the table, screen dark, like he was hiding something? I wrote, secretive with phone. Won't answer calls around me. The list grew longer. The early mornings when he'd leave to get to the office, even though he was supposedly retired. The late nights when he was working on a big proposal. The cancelled plans. The vague explanations. The way he'd changed the subject whenever I asked specific questions about his work. And Linda, God, Linda. I thought about how she'd been acting lately. The weight loss. The new clothes. The way she'd seemed happier, younger somehow, with a brightness in her eyes that I'd attributed to a new exercise routine, or maybe a promotion at work. She'd been in love with my boyfriend. My coffee had gone cold. I dumped it in the sink and poured a fresh cup, then sat back down with my notebook. Making lists was calming me down, giving me focus. I was thinking clearly for the first time since I'd seen them on the street. But lists weren't enough. I needed proof. Real proof. The kind of evidence that couldn't be explained away or denied. At 8:30 I called Claire. Mom. She answered on the second ring, her voice thick with sleep. Is everything okay? I need your help with something, I said. Can you come over? Today, if possible. There was a pause. You sound strange. What's wrong? I'll explain when you get here. But Claire, I took a breath. You were right to worry about Rob. You were right about everything. I'm on my way, she said immediately. Give me 2 hours. She made it in 90 minutes. I met her at the door, and the moment she saw my face, she pulled me into a hug. Tell me, she said. So I did. I told her everything, the lunch that Rob had cancelled, seeing him with Linda on the street, driving to Linda's apartment and watching him use his key to let himself in. I told her about the matching bracelets, the coordinating schedules, all the little pieces that suddenly formed a complete picture. Claire listened without interrupting, her face growing harder with every word. When I finished, she was quiet for a long moment. That son of a... She cut herself off, then shook her head. Mom, I'm so sorry. I knew something felt wrong, but I never imagined. Aunt Linda. Your own sister. I know. What are you going to do? This was the moment. This was where I had to commit to the path I'd chosen. I could still back out. I could confront them privately, have a painful conversation, end the relationships quietly. That would be the mature thing to do, the sensible thing. But I was done being sensible, I said, publicly. In front of the entire family. Claire's eyes widened. Mom, Aunt Beatrice's 90th birthday party is in 3 weeks. The whole family will be there. All the cousins, everyone. I'm going to present the evidence then, where everyone can see what they've done. That's pretty nuclear. They deserve it. My voice was harder than I'd intended. They made a fool of me, Claire. They lied to my face while they were sneaking around behind my back. Linda is my sister. She's supposed to love me, to protect me. Instead, she stole from me. They both did. Claire studied me carefully, and I could see her working through the implications. Finally, she nodded. Okay. If that's what you want to do, I'll help you. But we need to be smart about this. We need real proof, not just suspicions. That's why I called you, I said. I don't know how to gather evidence. I don't know anything about surveillance or tracking or whatever it is we need to do. A slow smile spread across Claire's face. But I do. Mom, you're looking at someone who tracks marketing analytics for a living. I know how to find patterns, how to document behavior, how to create a presentation that tells a story. If we're going to do this, we're going to do it right. She opened her laptop and pulled up a chair next to me. First things first. We need to document everything you already know. Then we need to gather new evidence. Photos, screenshots, receipts, anything we can find. How do we get that without them knowing? We're going to have to be sneaky. She was already typing, making notes. Does Rob know your schedule? When you're home, when you're out? Pretty much. I mean, I'm fairly predictable. Book club on Thursdays, grocery shopping on Saturdays, church on Sundays. Good. That means we can predict when he'll be with Linda. Next time he says he's busy during one of your usual activities, we follow him. We take pictures. We document where they go, what they do. Follow him? The idea made me nervous. I'm not sure I can. I'll do it, Claire said firmly. He doesn't know my car. I'll park down the street and track his movements. You just need to tell me when he's supposedly busy, and I'll see where he really is. What about Linda? Same thing. We track her social media. Does she post on Facebook or Instagram? Sometimes. Not a lot, but sometimes. Perfect. I'm going to create a fake account and friend her. That way we can see what she's posting, who she's with, where she's checking in. People are careless on social media. They forget who's watching. I felt a strange mixture of excitement and dread. This was really happening. We were really doing this. What about his phone? I asked. Claire thought for a moment. That's trickier. We can't legally hack into it or anything. But if you ever get a chance, if he leaves it unattended for even a minute, you could take photos of his messages. Just scroll through his texts with Linda and photograph the screen with your phone. That feels like a violation of privacy. Claire looked at me levelly. Mom, he's dating your sister. I think he violated your privacy first. She was right. Of course she was right. We spent the next 3 hours planning. Claire set up the fake social media account, she called it, Beth Williams, and used a stock photo of a middle-aged woman. She crafted a friend request to Linda that looked innocent enough. Hey, I think we met at the boutique downtown last month. You helped me pick out a scarf. Linda will accept this, Claire said confidently. She's always trying to network to make connections. She won't think twice about it. Next, we created a timeline in a shared document, a spreadsheet where we could log every time Rob claimed to be somewhere and every time we caught him somewhere else. Evidence needed organization, it needed structure. The party is 3 weeks away, Claire said, checking her calendar. That gives us time to gather solid proof. But Mom, you have to act normal. You have to keep seeing Rob, keep talking to Linda, like nothing's wrong. If they suspect, they'll be more careful. I have to pretend everything's fine. The thought made me sick. Just for 3 weeks. Can you do that? I thought about Rob's smile. The way he called me sweetheart. The way he'd held my hand at the movies just last week. I thought about Linda's laugh. The way she used to braid my hair when we were children. The way she'd held me when Harold died. Yes, I said. I can do that. And I could. Because every smile I gave them would be a lie they believed. Every, I love you, Rob said to me would be another nail in his coffin. Every time Linda asked how I was doing, pretending to care, I'd be one step closer to showing everyone who she really was. 3 weeks, 21 days, I'd been a librarian for 35 years. I knew how to research, how to organize information, how to present a story that built to a devastating conclusion. Rob and Linda had written this story. I was just going to make sure it had the ending they deserved. That night, Rob called me around 9. Hey, sweetheart, he said, his voice warm and familiar. I'm so sorry about lunch today. The meeting ran long, and by the time it ended, I figured you'd already eaten. It's fine, I said, keeping my voice light. These things happen. You're too understanding. That's what I love about you. He paused. Listen, I have to go to Seattle again this weekend. Friday through Sunday. But when I get back, let's plan something special. Maybe that new French restaurant you mentioned. Friday through Sunday. I'd bet my house that Linda would also be busy this weekend. That sounds wonderful, I said. I'll miss you. I'll miss you too. Sweet dreams, Maggie. After we hung up, I sent a text to Claire. He's going to Seattle this weekend, Friday to Sunday. Her reply came seconds later. I'll be watching. I went to bed that night with my notebook on my nightstand, full of evidence and plans and the cold satisfaction of knowing that justice was coming. 3 weeks felt like a long time to wait. But I'd waited 68 years to stop being the sensible one, the peacemaker, the woman who let things go for the sake of family harmony. I could wait 3 more weeks. The first weekend of surveillance felt surreal. I spent Friday morning at my kitchen table, drinking coffee and pretending to read a book while my stomach churned with anxiety. Rob had texted me that morning, on my way to Seattle. "We'll call you tonight. Miss you already." I'd responded with a heart emoji. It felt like swallowing poison. Claire arrived at my house around noon, dressed in jeans and a dark jacket, her hair pulled back in a ponytail. She had her laptop bag over one shoulder and a determined look on her face. "Ready?" she asked. "I don't know. Am I supposed to come with you?" "Not this time. Too risky if he spots you. But I'll keep you updated." She held up her phone. "I've got a full tank of gas, snacks, and a thermos of coffee. I'm prepared for a stakeout." "You watch too many detective shows," she grinned. "Maybe, but those shows taught me a lot. Trust me, Mom. By the end of this weekend, we'll know exactly what he's doing." After Claire left, I tried to keep myself busy. I cleaned the kitchen, though it didn't need cleaning. I reorganized my bookshelf alphabetically, then by color, then by subject matter. I started a jigsaw puzzle and gave up after 20 pieces. Every few minutes, I checked my phone, waiting for updates. The first text came at 2:15. "He's not heading to the highway. He just turned toward downtown." My heart raced. Downtown, where Linda lived. The second text, confirmed. "He's at Linda's apartment complex. Just went inside." I sat down hard on my sofa, even though I'd known this was coming. Knowing and seeing the proof were two different things. The third text came with a photo attachment. I opened it with trembling fingers. There was Rob's silver sedan parked in Linda's designated spot. The timestamp showed 20:22 p.m. clear. "Got it," I texted back. "What now?" "Now I wait. I'll let you know when he leaves." The hours crawled by. I made dinner, pasta with marinara sauce, but could barely eat it. I kept checking my phone, watching the minutes tick past. 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. At 6:30, he's still there. I'm going to stay until he leaves, or until it's too dark to take good photos. Be careful. Always. At 8:15, my phone rang. It was Rob. "Hi, sweetheart," he said. His voice sounded relaxed, happy. "Just got to the hotel in Seattle. Long drive. How was your day?" I closed my eyes, forcing myself to sound normal. "Quiet. I worked on a puzzle, did some reading. Nothing exciting. How's Seattle?" "Rainy, as usual. I'm exhausted. I think I'm going to order room service and crash early." "That sounds good. Get some rest." "I will. Love you, Maggie." The words felt like acid. "Love you too." The moment I hung up, I texted Claire. "He just called me. Said he's at a hotel in Seattle." Her response: "He's a lying bastard. He's sitting in your sister's living room." Something broke inside me then. Not a dramatic shattering, but a quiet cracking, like ice on a winter pond. Whatever small hope I'd been holding on to, whatever possibility that this was all a misunderstanding, disappeared. They were liars. Both of them. Practiced, casual liars who could look me in the eye and deceive me without hesitation. Claire stayed until 10 p.m. when Rob finally left Linda's apartment. She took 3 more photos. Him walking to his car, him getting in, him driving away. Each photo was timestamped, geotagged, irrefutable. The next morning, Saturday. Claire called me at 7 a.m. "Check Facebook," she said. "Beth Williams has some interesting updates to show you." I logged into the fake account Claire had created. Linda had accepted the friend request the day before, just as Claire predicted. And there, posted at 11 p.m. the previous night, was a photo that made my blood boil. It was a selfie of Linda lying on her couch in pajamas, holding a glass of wine. The caption read, "Perfect Friday night in. Sometimes staying home is the best kind of evening. Prem blessed fame a time cozy night." She posted this 3 hours after Rob left, Claire said. She's documenting her alibi, making it look like she was alone all night. But we know she wasn't. Exactly. Screenshot this. We're adding it to the evidence folder. Over the next 2 weeks, the pattern continued. Rob told me he had to work late on Tuesday. Claire photographed his car at Linda's apartment from 6 p.m. to 11 p.m. Linda posted on Facebook about having dinner with girlfriends. Claire tracked her to the same restaurant where Rob had taken me on our first date. Every lie was documented. Every deception was photographed. Every false excuse was added to our growing spreadsheet of evidence. But the real breakthrough came during week 2, when I finally got access to Rob's phone. It was a Wednesday afternoon. Rob had come over to my house to watch a movie. We were sitting on my couch, his arm around my shoulders, watching some thriller that I couldn't have recounted 5 minutes after it ended. My mind was elsewhere, running through plans and possibilities. About halfway through the movie, stood up. "I need to use the bathroom," he said, Be right back. His phone on the coffee table, face up. Unlocked. This was it. This was my chance. My heart pounded so hard I thought he'd hear it from the other room. I grabbed my phone and picked up his, hands shaking. I opened his messages and scrolled to Linda's name. The conversation history made me nauseous. Can't wait to see you tonight. I'll bring wine. Missing you already. Today was perfect. She called again. Had to pretend I was in a meeting. God, I hate lying to her, but it's only a little while longer. Only a little while longer. What did that mean? Were they planning to tell me eventually? Or were they planning something else? I scrolled back further, taking photos as fast as I could. My hands were sweating, making it hard to hold the phone steady. Do you think she suspects anything? No, she's too trusting. She believes everything I tell her. I heard the toilet flush. Panic shot through me. I took 3 more rapid photos, then closed his messages and set his phone back exactly where it had been, screen dimming to black. By the time Rob came back into the room, I was scrolling through my own phone, looking at a recipe website, trying to keep my breathing steady. What are you looking at? He asked, settling back onto the couch. Just thinking about what to make for dinner tomorrow. I saw this recipe for lemon chicken that looks good. He kissed the top of my head. You're always thinking ahead. That's what I love about you. I smiled up at him, and he smiled back. And anyone watching us would have seen a happy couple enjoying a quiet evening together. No one would have known that I had just photographed evidence of his betrayal, that every word out of his mouth was a lie, that in less than a week I would destroy him. That night, after Rob left, I sent the photos to Claire. There were 12 screenshots in total, each one showing a different conversation between Rob and Linda. The messages went back 4 months, maybe longer. I hadn't had time to scroll to the beginning. Claire called me immediately. Mom, this is perfect. This is exactly what we needed. We have dates, times, evidence of premeditation, proof that they knew they were deceiving you. There's one message I don't understand, I said. He wrote only a little while longer. What does that mean? Claire was quiet for a moment. I don't know. But I'll dig into it. Maybe they're planning to come clean, or maybe. She stopped. Maybe what? Maybe they're planning to wait until something changes. Until you're not in the picture anymore. The implications of that hung heavy in the air. Were they waiting for me to break up with Rob? Were they planning to stage some kind of breakup? Or were they just going to keep lying indefinitely? It didn't matter. Whatever their plan was, I was about to ruin it. The final piece of evidence came 3 days before Aunt Beatrice's party. I was at the grocery store, pushing my cart down the produce aisle, when I heard familiar voices from the next aisle over. Linda and her friend Joyce. I recognized Joyce's loud, nasal voice immediately. I froze, my hand on a bag of apples. So when are you going to tell her? Joyce was saying. Tell who what? That was Linda's voice. Your sister. When are you going to tell Maggie about Rob? My breath caught. I moved closer to the end of the aisle, staying out of sight. I don't know, Linda said. She sounded tired. Soon. I guess. Rob keeps saying we should wait until the right time, but there's never going to be a right time. How do you tell your sister that you're in love with her boyfriend? You've been seeing him for what, 6 months now? 7. It's been 7 months. Linda sighed. I never meant for it to happen, Joyce. It just did. We ran into each other at that insurance seminar downtown, and we started talking, and one thing led to another. I know it's wrong. I know it's horrible. But I can't help how I feel. Does he love you? He says he does. He says Maggie is nice, but there's no passion there. She's his companion, not his lover. With me, he says it's different. I gripped the shopping cart so hard my knuckles turned white. Well, Joyce said, you better figure it out soon. These things have a way of coming out, and it's better if you control the narrative. They moved away down the aisle, their voices fading. I stood there, shaking, tears streaming down my face in the middle of the produce section. 7 months. They'd been doing this for 7 months. More than half the time I'd been with Rob. I abandoned my cart and walked out of the store. I sat in my car and called Claire. I just heard them, I said. Linda and her friend. Talking about Rob. Talking about me like I'm some pathetic old woman who's too stupid to see what's happening. Mom, she said, there's no passion with me. That I'm just his companion. My voice broke. She's my sister Claire. How could she do this? I don't know, Mom, I don't know. But listen to me, in 3 days, everyone's going to know what they did. In 3 days, they're going to face consequences. You just have to hold on a little longer. I wiped my eyes with the back of my hand. I'm so tired of pretending. I know, but you're strong. You're the strongest person I know. And what we're about to do is going to be epic. She was right. I'd come this far. I'd gathered the evidence. I'd documented everything. I'd played the role of the oblivious girlfriend perfectly. 3 more days. That's all I had to endure. On Friday evening, the night before the party, Claire came over to help me put together the final presentation. We sat at my kitchen table with her laptop, organizing photos, screenshots, and timeline data into a slideshow. We need to tell a story, Claire said, arranging the images. We start with the happy couple, you and Rob. Then we show the inconsistencies, the matching bracelets, the timeline of his Seattle trips versus Linda's absences. Then we hit them with the text messages, and we end with the photos of them together. Is it cruel? I asked suddenly. What we're about to do. Claire looked up at me. Mom, they carried on a 7-month affair behind your back. They lied to you every single day. They made you feel like you were losing your mind when you questioned things. They were planning to eventually tell you, but only when it was convenient for them. What we're doing isn't cruel, it's the truth. And they deserve to face it. She was right. I knew she was right. We finished the presentation at midnight. 35 slides, telling the complete story of Rob and Linda's betrayal. It was thorough, damning, and absolutely undeniable. Tomorrow's going to be intense, Claire said as she packed up her laptop. Are you ready? I thought about the past 3 weeks. The surveillance, the fake smiles, the lies I'd swallowed, the evidence I'd gathered, while my heart broke a little more each day. Yes, I said, I'm ready. That night I slept better than I had in weeks. Tomorrow the truth would come out. Tomorrow justice would be served. Tomorrow Rob and Linda would finally face what they'd done. Saturday morning arrived with bright sunshine and a cloudless sky. The kind of perfect spring day that made you believe good things were possible. I stood at my bedroom window, watching birds gather at the feeder in my backyard, and felt a strange calm settle over me. Today was the day. Aunt Beatrice's 90th birthday party was scheduled to begin at 2 p.m. at the community center downtown. The family had rented the large hall, the one with the stage and the projection screen, perfect for the slideshow presentation that Claire and I had prepared, though no one except us knew what that presentation would contain. I took my time getting ready. I showered, dried my hair, and put on makeup with more care than usual. I chose a dress I'd been saving for a special occasion. A deep blue sheath that Claire had helped me pick out last year. Simple, elegant, dignified. I wanted to look strong today. I wanted to look like someone who couldn't be broken. Rob called at 10 a.m. Good morning, beautiful, he said. I'm looking forward to seeing you this afternoon. Should I pick you up? That's okay, I said, keeping my voice light. Claire and I are going together. We want to get there early to help set up. I'll see you there. Can't wait. Love you. See you soon. I didn't say, love you back. I couldn't force those words past my lips anymore. Claire arrived at noon with the laptop and a USB drive containing our presentation. She also brought a garment bag. I brought my black dress, she said. The professional one. I want to look serious when this goes down. We stood in my living room looking at each other. This was real. This was happening. You can still back out, Claire said quietly. If you want to handle this privately, we can. My voice was firm. They humiliated me in private for 7 months. They're going to be exposed publicly. That's what happens when you betray people. Claire nodded. Then let's go make history. We arrived at the community center at 1 p.m. The party planning committee had already decorated blue and gold balloons, a banner that read, Happy 90th Birthday Beatrice, round tables with white tablecloths and flower centerpieces. A DJ was setting up in the corner, and the catering staff was arranging food on long tables. And there, on the stage, was exactly what we needed, a laptop station connected to a large projector screen. Perfect, Claire whispered. I'll set up our presentation while you help with the other stuff. Act normal. I busied myself arranging place cards and folding napkins while Claire worked at the laptop. Every few minutes, family members would arrive, my cousin Martha with her husband, Uncle Tom and his new wife, various nieces and nephews I hadn't seen in months. At 1:30, Linda arrived. She looked beautiful. She'd lost weight, just as I'd noticed before, and she was wearing a new dress, red fitted, more daring than her usual style. Her hair was professionally styled, and she wore makeup that made her look 10 years younger. She also wore the pearl bracelet, the one that matched mine. "Maggie!" She came over and hugged me, and I forced myself not to flinch. "You look wonderful. That blue is stunning on you." "Thank you," I said. "You look different. New dress?" A flush crept up her neck. Just felt like treating myself. "Where's Joyce today? I thought she might come with you." Linda's eyes widened slightly, just for a second, but I caught it. She was remembering the conversation in the grocery store, the one she didn't know I'd overheard. "She had other plans?" Linda said quickly. "How's Rob? Is he here yet?" "Not yet. Should be here soon." We made small talk for a few more minutes, and I marveled at how easy it was for her to lie. How comfortable she seemed standing there in her new dress, chatting with me like we were just two sisters at a family party. Rob arrived at 1:45. He was wearing a suit, navy blue, expensive looking. He'd gotten a haircut. He looked handsome, confident, like a man who had everything under control. He kissed my cheek. "You look beautiful, sweetheart. Thank you." I watched as his eyes scanned the room and landed on Linda. Something passed between them. A look, a moment of recognition. Linda smiled slightly, then turned away to talk to Aunt Martha. They were so practiced at this, so smooth. At 2 p.m., the guests of honor arrived. Aunt Beatrice entered on the arm of her son, my cousin David. At 90, she was still sharp as a tack, her white hair styled in elegant curls, her eyes bright and observant. She'd been the matriarch of our family for as long as I could remember. The one who settled disputes, gave advice, and held everyone accountable. Today, she was going to see everything. Everyone gathered around to greet her, offering hugs and birthday wishes. The DJ started playing music. The caterers began serving food. It looked like any other family celebration. Claire appeared at my elbow. Etc. whispered. "The presentation is loaded and ready. The laptop is password protected so no one can mess with it. All you have to do is give me the signal, and I'll start it." "When?" "During the toasts. That's when everyone will be paying attention. That's when we'll have maximum impact." My stomach twisted. "Okay, Mom." Claire took my hand. "Last chance to change your mind." I looked around the room. There was Linda, laughing at something Uncle Tom was saying. There was Rob, helping himself to appetizers, looking relaxed and happy. And there was Aunt Beatrice, surrounded by family, smiling at everyone who'd come to celebrate her. In a few minutes, this peaceful scene would explode, but they'd brought this on themselves. "I'm sure," I said. The party continued. We ate lunch. The DJ played Aunt Beatrice's favorite songs from the 40s and 50s. People danced, including Rob, who spun me around the floor with practiced ease. I smiled and laughed and played my part perfectly. At 3:30, David tapped a spoon against his glass. "Can I have everyone's attention?" he called out. "It's time for toasts." Everyone gathered around holding champagne glasses. The DJ lowered the music. David stood next to Aunt Beatrice, beaming. "Mom, you are an incredible woman," he began. 90 years of wisdom, strength, and love. You've held this family together through good times and bad. We're all here today because of you." There were murmurs of agreement. Aunt Beatrice dabbed at her eyes with a handkerchief. Other family members took turns giving toasts. Cousin Martha talked about childhood memories. Uncle Tom told a funny story about Beatrice giving him relationship advice in his 20s. Each toast was warm, loving, nostalgic. Then Claire stepped forward. "I'd also like to say something," she said. Her voice was steady, professional. "Aunt Beatrice, you've always taught us that family means honesty, that we should be truthful with each other, even when the truth is difficult. So in honor of your 90th birthday, I thought we should look back at some family memories. I've put together a little slideshow." She nodded to someone near the laptop, and the projection screen lit up. The first slide was a photo of Aunt Beatrice from decades ago, surrounded by young children, her kids, grandkids, the whole family. There were appreciative awes from the crowd. "This family has been through so much together," Claire continued, "and Aunt Beatrice always said the most important thing is to tell the truth and face reality, no matter how painful." The next few slides showed family gatherings over the years, Christmases, Thanksgivings, weddings. Everyone was smiling, relaxed. I felt Rob's hand on my back. He leaned close and whispered, "This is nice." "Did you know she was doing this?" "Yes," I said quietly. Then the slides changed. A photo of me and Rob appeared on the screen. We were at a restaurant smiling at the camera. The caption read, "Maggie and Rob, 3 years together." There were murmurs of approval. Rob squeezed my hand. The next slide showed the pearl bracelet on my wrist. The caption, "Birthday gift, April 2025. Then another slide, the identical bracelet on Linda's wrist. Same pearls, same clasp. Same gift, same time. The murmurs changed tone, confused. Curious. I felt Rob's hand tense on my back. "What is this?" he whispered. I didn't answer. The slides continued, relentless. The spreadsheet showing Rob's Seattle trips on the left, Linda's unavailable dates on the right. Perfect alignment every single time. Photos of Rob's car parked at Linda's apartment complex, time-stamped, geotag. Screenshots of Linda's Facebook posts claiming she was home alone, posted on nights when Rob's car was documented at her apartment. The room had gone completely silent. Everyone was staring at the screen. Then came the text messages. Rob's words to Linda, blown up large enough for everyone to read. "Can't wait to see you tonight. Missing you already." She called again. Had to pretend I was in a meeting. God, I hate lying to her, but it's only a little while longer. Do you think she suspects anything? No, she's too trusting. She believes everything I tell me. Gasp echoed through the room. I heard someone say, "Oh my God." I turned to look at Rob. His face had gone white. His mouth was opening and closing like a fish. "Maggie," he started. But the presentation wasn't done. The final slides appeared, photos Claire had taken during surveillance. Rob walking into Linda's apartment. Rob and Linda at a restaurant, leaning close together. Rob kissing Linda's cheek on a street corner. The last slide was simple text. 7 months of betrayal. This is what honesty looks like. Happy birthday, Aunt Beatrice. Thank you for teaching us to value truth. The screen went dark. The silence in the room was deafening. 50 family members stood frozen, staring at the blank screen, then at me, then at Rob, then at Linda. Linda had her hand over her mouth. Her face was scarlet. She looked like she wanted the floor to swallow her. Rob's hand had dropped from my back. He took a step away from me, shaking his head. This is not what it looks like," he stammered. Aunt Beatrice's voice cut through the silence like a knife. "Then what is it, Robert?" She was standing now, supported by her cane, her eyes blazing with fury. I'd never seen her look so angry. "Because it looks to me," she continued, her voice shaking with rage, "like you've been carrying on with Linda while dating Maggie. It looks like you've been lying to my niece for 7 months. It looks like Linda has been betraying her own sister." "Aunt Beatrice," Linda started, tears streaming down her face. "Don't." Beatrice held up one hand. "Don't you dare try to explain this away. I saw the evidence. We all saw it." Rob turned to me, his eyes pleading. "Maggie, please. We need to talk. Privately." "This isn't the place." "No," I said. My voice was calm, steady, nothing like the storm of emotions inside me. "This is exactly the place. You made a fool of me in private. You get to face the consequences in public." "It wasn't like that. 7 months, Rob. You lied to me for 7 months. Every I love you, every promise, every moment we spent together. It was all a love you, love her." I pointed at Linda. "The text messages prove it. The photos prove it. Stop lying. Please, just stop lying." Rob opened his mouth, but nothing came out. What could he possibly say? The evidence was overwhelming. I turned to Linda, my sister, the person who was supposed to protect me, to stand by me, to be loyal above all others. "How could you?" I asked, my voice cracked. "How could you do this to me?" Linda was sobbing now, mascara running down her face. "I'm sorry. Maggie, I'm so sorry. It just happened. We didn't mean. You didn't mean to sleep with my boyfriend for 7 months. You didn't mean to lie to my face every time I saw you. You didn't mean to post fake stories on Facebook to cover your tracks. I never wanted to hurt you. But you did." My voice rose, all the pain and anger of the past 3 weeks pouring out. "You hurt me every single day. Every time you smiled at me. Every time you asked how I was doing, pretending to care. You were laughing at me with him? That's not true." "It is true. I heard you at the grocery store. You and Joyce, talking about me like I was some pathetic old woman. She's just his companion." "Those were your words?" Linda's face crumpled. She had nothing to say. No defense. No excuse. The room was still silent. Everyone watching. Everyone waiting. Aunt Beatrice stepped forward, moving slowly but deliberately. She stopped in front of Linda. "You are no longer welcome in this family." she said quietly. Pack your things from my storage unit. Don't come to family gatherings. Don't call me. You broke the most sacred bond, the bond between sisters. There is no forgiveness for that. Aunt Beatrice, please. Get out of my party now. Linda looked around wildly, seeking support, but everyone avoided her eyes. Even her own children, my nieces, were staring at the floor in shame. She grabbed her purse and ran from the room, sobbing. Aunt Beatrice turned to Rob. You too, get out. Rob looked at me one last time. Mag you, I said. Please just go. He left without another word. The silence that followed felt like the aftermath of an earthquake. Slowly, people began to move, to whisper, to look at me with expressions of shock and sympathy. Aunt Beatrice came over and took my hands. You are the bravest woman I know, she said. What you just did took courage I can't imagine. Are you all right? Was I all right? I'd just blown up my relationship, destroyed my sister's reputation, and turned my aunt's 90th birthday party into a public confrontation. But I was standing. I was breathing. And for the first time in 3 weeks, I wasn't pretending. I'm all right, I said. I'm going to be all right. Claire appeared at my side and put her arm around me. Let's get you home, Mom. But Aunt Beatrice shook her head. No, Maggie stays. This is a family celebration and she's family. Linda and Rob made their choices. We're not letting them ruin this day. She raised her voice so everyone could hear. This party continues! DJ, play something upbeat. Everyone eat, drink, and celebrate. We're honoring truth and integrity today, and Maggie just showed us what both of those look like. Slowly, incredibly, the party resumed. The DJ started playing music again. People came over to hug me, to tell me how brave I was, to say they were sorry I'd been hurt. My cousin David brought me a glass of champagne. That was the most baddest thing I've ever seen, he said quietly. They deserved every bit of it. I drank the champagne and let myself be surrounded by family. Real family. People who cared about me, who'd seen the truth and stood by me. The rest of the party passed in a blur. I danced with Claire. I talked to relatives I hadn't seen in years. I even cut the birthday cake with Aunt Beatrice, who kept her arm linked through mine the entire time. And through it all, I felt something I hadn't felt in months, free from the lies, free from the pretending, free from the weight of betrayal I'd been carrying alone. Rob and Linda were gone. Their deception was exposed, everyone knew the truth, and I was still standing. The days following the party felt like waking up from a long, confusing dream. Sunday morning, I opened my eyes in my own bed, sunlight streaming through the curtains, and for a moment I couldn't remember why I felt so different. Then it all came flooding back. The slideshow, the gasps, Rob's white face. Linda running from the room in tears. I'd done it. I'd actually done it. My phone was buzzing on the nightstand. I picked it up to find dozens of messages from family members. Cousin Martha, you were so brave yesterday. I'm proud of you, Uncle Tom. If you need anything at all, just call. My niece Sarah, Linda's daughter, Aunt Maggie. I'm so sorry, I had no idea Mom was doing this. I'm ashamed of her. Even distant relatives I rarely heard from had reached out with messages of support. The family group chat was exploding with conversations, most supportive of me, some expressing shock, a few arguing about whether public exposure had been too harsh. But there was nothing from Linda, nothing from Rob. Claire called at 9 a.m. How are you feeling? She asked. Strange, I admitted. Like I should feel worse than I do. Shouldn't I be devastated, crying? I just feel empty and relieved. That's normal, Mom. You've been processing this for 3 weeks. You cried when you found out. You went through the grief privately. Yesterday wasn't about sadness. It was about justice. And you got it. Do you think I was too harsh? Some people in the family chat seemed to think so. Claire snorted. Too harsh. They lied to you for 7 months. They made you doubt your own instincts. They were probably planning to keep lying until they decided it was convenient to tell the truth. What you did was proportional to what they did. Aunt Beatrice cut Linda out completely. Linda earned that. She betrayed you, and Aunt Beatrice values loyalty above everything else. Linda knew the consequences when she made her choices. We talked for another hour. Claire offered to come stay with me for a few days, but I told her I needed time alone to process everything, to figure out who I was without Rob, without the version of my relationship with Linda that I'd believed in. After we hung up, I made coffee and sat on my back porch, watching birds at the feeder. It was a beautiful May morning, warm and bright. Everything looked the same as it had a month ago. My phone rang, an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity got the better of me. Hello, Maggie. It was Linda's voice, hoarse from crying. Please don't hang up. I should have. I should have ended the call immediately. But something made me stay on the line. What do you want, Linda? I want to apologize. Not the half apologies I tried to give yesterday. I want to tell you I'm sorry, okay? Tell me. She took a shaky breath. I'm sorry. What I did was unforgivable. I betrayed you in the worst possible way. You're my sister. I'm supposed to protect you, and instead I hurt you. I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't deserve your forgiveness. I just needed you to know that I'm sorry. I waited, but she didn't say anything else. Is that all? I asked. What else can I say? I made a terrible mistake. I let myself get involved with Rob, and I convinced myself it was okay because we had feelings for each other. But it wasn't okay. It was selfish and cruel, and I destroyed our relationship because of it. How did it start? The question came out before I could stop it. Part of me didn't want to know, but another part needed to understand. Linda was quiet for a long moment. That insurance seminar I mentioned to Joyce. It was about 14 months ago. Rob was there teaching a workshop. We recognized each other, obviously. Just lunch. Nothing inappropriate. 14 months. My stomach dropped. You've known him for 14 months? Yes. We became friends. We'd text sometimes, meet for coffee, just friendly. I swear, Maggie, there was nothing romantic at first. But it became romantic. 7 months ago. He invited me to dinner after one of our coffee meetings. We had wine, we talked for hours. And something shifted. We kissed. I knew it was wrong, but I couldn't stop myself. I closed my eyes. 7 months of active betrayal. But 7 months before that of friendship, of growing emotional intimacy, of building something behind my back. Did you laugh about me? I asked. When you were together? No, God, no, Maggie. We never laughed at you. I felt guilty every single day. Rob did too. We talked about ending it constantly, but we couldn't. We kept saying we'd tell you, that we'd figure out the right way. There is no right way to tell someone that you've been sleeping with their boyfriend for 7 months, Linda. I know. I know that now. You should have known it then. You should have stopped after that first kiss. You should have told me immediately. But you didn't. You chose him over me. Every day for 7 months, you made that choice. Linda was crying now. You're right, I did. And I'll regret it for the rest of my life. I've lost you. I've lost Aunt Beatrice. My own daughters are ashamed of me. The whole family knows what I did. I've lost everything that matters. Part of me felt satisfaction at that. But another part, the part that remembered braiding her hair when we were children, the part that remembered her holding me when Harold died, felt a flicker of sympathy. I crushed it. I said, you deserve to lose those things. You earned those consequences. I know. Don't call me again, Linda. We're done? Maggie, please. I hung up. My hands were shaking. I set the phone down and wrapped my arms around myself. This was what closure felt like. Not satisfaction, not peace. Just a door closing on a part of my life that I'd never get back. An hour later, there was a knock at my front door. I looked through the peephole and saw Rob standing on my porch. He was holding flowers, roses, my favorites. The gesture would have been romantic a month ago. Now it just looked pathetic. I opened the door but didn't invite him in. What do you want, Rob? He tried to smile, that charming smile that had won me over 3 years ago. I wanted to talk. To explain. What you saw yesterday was the truth. Complete documented truth. It was out of context. If you just let me explain. There's no context that makes it okay, Rob. You were dating me and my sister simultaneously. You lied to both of us. You told her there was no passion with me, that I was just your companion. You told me you loved me while you were sleeping with her. What context makes that acceptable? He set the flowers down on the porch railing. I do love you, Maggie. I never lied about that. But Linda and I have a connection that's different. Stronger. I tried to fight it, but... Get off my porch. Maggie, please. Get off my porch. Or I'm calling the police. You're not welcome here. You're never welcome here again. He stared at me like he couldn't believe what he was hearing. Like he'd actually thought he could charm his way out of this. You're really not going to give me a chance to make this right. There is no making this right. There's only you leaving and never contacting me again. After 3 years together. 3 years of lies. At least 1 year of emotional betrayal, 7 months of physical betrayal. You don't get to play the victim here. Something in his face hardened. The charm fell away and I saw the real Rob underneath. The man who could lie smoothly for months. Who could manipulate two women simultaneously. Who could look me in the eye and deceive me without hesitation. You know what? He said coldly. Maybe Linda was right. Maybe there was no passion with us. You're so rigid, Maggie. So judgmental. Everything has to be black and white with you. Can't you understand that relationships are complicated? That people can love more than one person? Not when one of those people is my sister, not when it's built on lies. Whatever. He picked up his flowers. I tried to apologize. I tried to make amends. But you're too stubborn to see it. You and Linda can both go to hell. He stormed off to his car and drove away, tires squealing. I closed the door and leaned against it, my heart pounding. That was the real Rob. That was who he'd been all along, hidden under the charm and the smooth words. I'd dodged a bullet. If I hadn't discovered the truth, if I'd kept dating him, eventually that cold, manipulative man would have emerged. Maybe after we'd moved in together. Maybe after marriage. I'd saved myself from that future. The following week was a blur of activity. I blocked Rob's number and Linda's number. I changed my locks. Rob had given me a key to his place, which meant he might have copied my key. I wouldn't put it past him. I met with a therapist that Claire helped me find. Patricia Chen was a kind woman in her 50s who specialized in family trauma and betrayal. What you're experiencing is a double betrayal, she explained during our first session. Not just romantic betrayal from your partner, but familial betrayal from your sister. That's a profound wound. Everyone keeps asking me how I'm doing, I said. I'm not falling apart. I'm not crying all the time. I just feel numb. Numb is a valid response. You've been processing this for weeks. The exposure at the party was your way of taking back control, of refusing to be a silent victim. Now you're in the aftermath, and your emotions are catching up. Do you think what I did was wrong, exposing them publicly? Dr. Chen considered this. I think it was a choice. Not the only choice, but a valid one. They hurt you publicly by conducting their affair in front of family and friends, even if those people didn't know it at the time. You felt that a public reckoning was appropriate. Some people might have handled it differently, but that doesn't make your choice wrong. My cousin Janet said I was cruel, that I humiliated them unnecessarily. Did they show you compassion when they were lying to you? Did they consider your feelings during those 7 months? No. Then why do you owe them compassion now? It was a good question. One I'd been struggling with. Over the next few weeks, life slowly returned to a new kind of normal. I went to book club and was surrounded by friends who supported me. I volunteered at the library, working with children on their summer reading lists. I planted tomatoes in my garden and watched them grow. Aunt Beatrice called me every few days to check in. You're stronger than you know, she told me. This would have destroyed a lesser woman. I don't feel strong. I feel like I'm just surviving. Surviving is strength, Margaret. Never forget that. I learned through the family grapevine that Linda had moved out of Portland. She'd taken a job in Sacramento and left without saying goodbye to anyone. Her daughters visited her once, came back saying she seemed broken, alone, and full of regret. I felt nothing when I heard that. Not satisfaction, not sympathy, just nothing. Rob, apparently, had tried to win Linda back after I rejected him, but she'd refused. According to Cousin David, who'd heard it from someone who'd heard it from Joyce, Linda had told Rob that she'd destroyed her family for him, and he'd shown his true colors the moment things got difficult. She wanted nothing to do with him. So Rob lost both of us. He got exactly what he deserved. 6 weeks after the party, I was at the farmer's market buying fresh vegetables when I ran into Joyce, Linda's friend. She saw me and hesitated, clearly unsure whether to approach. I made the decision for her. Hello, Joyce. Maggie. Hi. I wasn't sure if you'd want to talk to me. You didn't do anything wrong. Linda made her own choices. Joyce nodded slowly. I want you to know, I told her it was wrong. When she first told me about Rob, I said she needed to end it, that it would destroy your relationship. She wouldn't listen. I know. I heard you that day in the grocery store. Joyce's eyes widened. You heard. Everything. That's how I knew it had been going on for 7 months. Oh, God. Joyce looked stricken. I'm so sorry. If I'd known you were there. It's fine. It helped me understand what I was dealing with. We stood there awkwardly for a moment. Then Joyce said, "She's miserable, Linda. She calls me sometimes, crying. She says she ruined everything for a man who didn't even really love her. That's not my problem anymore. I know. I just thought you'd want to know that she's suffering. That she's paying for what she did. Good," I said, and I meant it. Joyce nodded and walked away. I continued my shopping, filling my basket with fresh produce, breathing in the smell of flowers and baked goods and summer sunshine. This was my life now, mine alone. No boyfriend to accommodate. No sister to worry about. Just me, my daughter. My real friends, and a future that I could shape however I wanted. It wasn't the life I'd imagined 6 months ago. But it was honest. It was real. And for the first time in a long time, I was at peace with that. 3 months after the party, I woke up one morning and realized I hadn't thought about Rob or Linda in 2 entire days. It was a small victory, but it felt monumental. For weeks after the exposure, they'd occupied every waking thought. Anger, hurt, vindication, regret cycling through my mind on an endless loop. But slowly, gradually, they were fading into the background of my life. I was becoming myself again. Or maybe I was becoming a new version of myself, someone stronger. Someone who didn't need validation from a man or approval from a sister who'd never truly had my back. Dr. Chen had been instrumental in this transformation. In our weekly sessions, she'd helped me understand that my reaction to the betrayal wasn't about revenge. It was about reclaiming my narrative. For 7 months, they controlled the story. She explained. They decided what you knew, what you believed, how you felt. The exposure was your way of taking that power back. Of saying, "No, this is what really happened. And everyone will know the truth." But some people still think I was too harsh. Some people will always think that. Usually those people have never experienced profound betrayal. Or they have, and they chose the path of silent suffering, so they resent that you chose differently. Their opinions don't define the validity of your choice. She was right. I'd stopped checking the family group chat obsessively. I'd stopped worrying about what distant cousins thought of my actions. The people who mattered, Claire, Aunt Beatrice, my close friends, supported me completely. That was enough. Life had fallen into a new rhythm. I joined a hiking group for seniors and discovered I loved the physical challenge of climbing trails. Every Saturday morning, I met with 6 other women, and we'd explore the beautiful parks around Portland. None of them knew about Rob or Linda. I was just Maggie, the retired librarian who liked birds and bad puns. I'd also started volunteering more at the library, running a summer reading program for middle schoolers. Working with young people reminded me why I'd loved my career. Their enthusiasm, their questions, their hunger for stories. It was infectious. One afternoon in late July, I was helping a 12-year-old girl named Emma find books about strong women in history. "My teacher said we need role models," Emma explained. "Women who stood up for themselves even when it was hard." I showed her biographies of Eleanor Roosevelt, Harriet Tubman, Malala Yousafzai. As I handed her the books, I thought about my own experience. Would I tell her my story? Probably not. It wasn't exactly age-appropriate. But I understood now why these stories mattered. They showed us that we didn't have to accept mistreatment. That we could fight back, speak up, demand justice. These women all did something brave, I told Emma, something that scared them. But they did it anyway because it was right. Emma nodded seriously. Were people mad at them? Some people were. Some people always are when you upset the status quo. But that didn't make them wrong. She checked out 5 books and left with a determined look on her face. I hoped she'd find the inspiration she was looking for. That evening, Claire came over for dinner. She'd been visiting more frequently since the party, worried about me being alone. But lately, her visits felt less like welfare checks and more like genuine quality time. "You seem different," she said as we prepared a salad together. Lighter somehow. "I feel different. I feel like myself again, or maybe a better version of myself. Better how?" I thought about this as I chopped tomatoes. More honest, more willing to trust my instincts. For so long, I made excuses for Rob's behavior. I explained away the inconsistencies. I told myself I was being paranoid or jealous or insecure. But my instincts were right. I just wasn't listening to them. What made you stop listening? Years of being told I was too sensitive, too emotional, too dramatic. Harold never said those things. He was wonderful. But growing up with Linda, being compared to her constantly, I learned to doubt myself. She was the golden child. I was the serious one, the boring one. So when Rob chose her too, part of me thought, of course he did. Everyone always chooses Linda. Claire set down her knife and hugged me. Mom, you're not boring. You're thoughtful and intelligent and strong. Rob choosing Linda says nothing about your worth. It says everything about his character. I know that now. It took me a while to believe it, but I do. We ate dinner on the back porch, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and pink. The tomatoes from my garden were ripe and delicious. The evening air was warm. Everything felt peaceful. Have you heard anything about Linda? Claire asked carefully. Not directly. Aunt Beatrice mentioned she called, trying to apologize. Beatrice hung up on her. Good. I don't know. Part of me wonders if I should talk to her. Not to forgive her, but to get closure. Do you need closure from her? Or have you already gotten it? Another good question. I'd learned that closure didn't always come from the person who hurt you. Sometimes it came from within, from processing and accepting and moving forward. I think I've already gotten it, I admitted. Talking to her won't change anything. She made her choices. I made mine. That chapter is closed. Then that's your answer. We cleaned up the dinner dishes together, and Claire told me about a new project at work. A difficult client she was managing, her plans to repaint her apartment in sage green. Normal conversation, normal life after she left. I sat in my living room with a cup of tea and a book. But instead of reading, I found myself reflecting on the past few months. The exposure at the party had been dramatic, yes. Harsh, perhaps. But it had been necessary for me. Not for revenge, though I'd thought that was my motivation at the time, but for validation. I needed people to see what had been done to me. I needed witnesses to the truth. And the aftermath had shown me who my real family was. Aunt Beatrice, who'd stood by me without hesitation. Claire, who'd helped me every step of the way. Cousins who'd reached out with support. Friends who'd listened without judgment. Linda and Rob had done me a favor, in a twisted way. They'd revealed themselves. They'd shown me I was stronger than I thought. They'd forced me to stand up for myself in a way I'd never done before. I didn't regret the exposure, not anymore, not even a little bit. 2 weeks later, I received an invitation in the mail. My niece Sarah, Linda's daughter, was getting married in October. The invitation was addressed to just me and included a handwritten note. Dear Aunt Maggie, I know things are complicated with Mom right now, but you've been an important part of my life, and I'd love for you to be at my wedding. Mom will be there, obviously, but I'm seating you on opposite sides of the venue. I hope you'll come. Love, Sarah. I stared at the invitation for a long time. Sarah was a sweet girl, a woman now really at 27. She hadn't done anything wrong. She'd actually called me several times after the party to apologize for her mother's behavior. But could I sit in the same room as Linda? Could I watch her play the role of proud mother while pretending everything was fine? I called Claire for advice. What do you want to do? She asked. I want to support Sarah. She doesn't deserve to be caught in the middle of this. Then go. You don't have to talk to Linda. You don't even have to acknowledge her existence. Just be there for Sarah. What if people are uncomfortable? What if it's awkward? Then it's awkward. You've already survived the worst of it, Mom. A wedding will be nothing compared to what you've been through. She was right. I RSVP'd yes. The weeks leading up to the wedding, I focused on preparing. I bought a new dress. Elegant, understated, appropriate for a full wedding. I got my hair done. I practiced in my mind what I would say if Linda tried to approach me. But more importantly, I practiced being comfortable in my own skin. I practiced walking into a room with my head high, knowing I'd done nothing wrong. Knowing I'd stood up for myself. Knowing I had nothing to be ashamed of. The wedding was beautiful. Sarah looked radiant in her lace gown. Her new husband gazed at her with obvious adoration, and the ceremony was held in a garden with autumn leaves falling gently around us. I sat on the bride's side near the back. Linda sat on the opposite side, near the front. I saw her when I walked in. She'd aged since I'd last seen her. There were new lines around her eyes, and she looked thinner, frailer somehow. When our eyes met across the aisle, she looked away quickly. Good, I didn't want to talk to her anyway. The reception was held in a converted barn, rustic and charming. I sat at a table with cousins I hadn't seen since the party, and they welcomed me warmly. How are you doing, Maggie? Aunt Martha asked. I'm good. Really good, actually. You look happy. There's a light in your eyes that wasn't there before. I realized she was right. I was happy. Not in spite of what had happened, but because of how I'd handled it. Because of the strength I'd discovered in myself. Halfway through dinner, I saw Linda standing alone near the bar. She looked lost, isolated. Several family members had nodded at her politely, but hadn't engaged in conversation. She'd made her bed, as the saying goes, and now she was lying in it. For just a moment, I felt a flicker of pity. She'd lost her sister, her aunt, the respect of her family. She was alone at her own daughter's wedding. But then I remembered her words at the grocery store. How do you tell your sister that you're in love with her boyfriend? She'd known it was wrong. She'd done it anyway. The pity faded. After dinner, Sarah came over to my table. Thank you for coming, Aunt Maggie, she said, hugging me tight. It means so much to me. You're welcome, sweetheart. I'm so happy for you. I know things are difficult with Mom. I want you to know that I don't condone what she did. What she did to you was wrong, but she's still my mother, and I can't cut her out of my life completely. I understand. You shouldn't have to choose. This is between me and her, not between you and anyone. Sarah's eyes filled with tears. You're an amazing woman, Aunt Maggie. I hope I'm half as strong as you are. After she walked away, I sat there feeling overwhelmed with emotion. Not sadness, not anger, something else. Pride, maybe. Or satisfaction. I'd navigated an impossible situation with grace. I'd supported my niece while maintaining my boundaries. I'd proven to myself that I could handle anything. As the evening wound down and guests began leaving, I gathered my purse and wrap. I was heading toward the exit when I heard a voice behind me. Maggie, wait. I turned. Linda was standing a few feet away, her hands clasped in front of her like a penitent schoolgirl. I just wanted to say, she started. Don't, I interrupted. Whatever you want to say, I don't want to hear it. Please, just 1 minute. I looked at her, really looked at her. She'd been my sister for 64 years. We'd shared a childhood, shared holidays, shared loss. And she'd thrown it all away for a man who hadn't even really loved her. You don't get closure from me, Linda. You don't get forgiveness or understanding or sympathy. You made your choice. Live with it. I know what I did was unforgivable. Then stop trying to be forgiven. Stop calling family amends. Just accept that you destroyed our relationship and move on. Her face crumpled. You're my sister. I was your sister, past tense. You lost that when you decided Rob was more important than I was. I walked away then, leaving her standing there alone in the barn. I didn't look back. Outside, the night air was cool and crisp. Fall was settling in, bringing change and transformation. I breathed deeply, feeling lighter than I had in months. Claire was waiting by my car. She asked. I'm perfect, I said, and I meant it. 6 months after Aunt Beatrice's party, I stood in my kitchen on a crisp November morning, making coffee and humming along to the radio. Outside my window, frost covered the grass like powdered sugar, and the sun was just beginning to rise, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink. It was my birthday, 69 years old today. A year ago, I would have woken up to a phone call from Rob, bringing me flowers and taking me to brunch. Linda would have sent a card with a generic message about sisterhood. I would have celebrated surrounded by people who were lying to me. This year, I was celebrating differently. Claire was coming over at 10 with bagels and mimosas. My hiking group had planned an afternoon trek through Forest Park. And tonight, I was having dinner with a group of friends from book club. Women who'd supported me through everything, who'd never judged me, who celebrated my strength rather than questioning my choices. My phone buzzed with birthday messages. Aunt Beatrice had sent a text. Happy birthday to the bravest woman I know. Cousin Martha. Happy birthday, Maggie! You're an inspiration to us all, Sarah. Happy birthday, Aunt Maggie! Thank you for being an amazing role model. Love you. Even people I barely knew from the extended family had reached out. The exposure at the party had changed how they saw me. Not as quiet, sensible Maggie who faded into the background, but as someone with backbone, someone who refused to be a victim. There were no messages from Linda. No messages from Rob. Their absence didn't hurt anymore. It just was. Dr. Chen and I had wrapped up our weekly sessions a month ago, transitioning to monthly check-ins. In our last session, she'd asked me what I'd learned from the experience. I learned that I'm stronger than I thought. I'd said. I learned that standing up for yourself isn't cruel. It's necessary. And I learned that sometimes the people you trust most are the ones who hurt you deepest. But that doesn't mean you should stop trusting. It just means you should trust yourself first. And do you trust yourself now? She'd asked. Yes, I'd answered without hesitation. I knew it was true. For the first time in my life, I trusted my instincts completely. When something felt wrong, I listened to that feeling instead of explaining it away. When someone's words didn't match their actions, I paid attention. I'd learned the most valuable lesson of all, that being kind and trusting didn't mean being naive or accepting mistreatment. Claire arrived right at 10, arms full of bags and wearing a party hat. "Happy birthday, Mom," she exclaimed, sweeping into the kitchen. "I bought everything: bagels, cream cheese, smoked salmon, and champagne for mimosas. You didn't have to do all this." "Of course I did. You're my mom, and this is your first birthday as a completely free woman. We're celebrating." We set up a spread on the kitchen table, and Claire poured generous glasses of mimosa. She raised hers in a toast to Mom, the woman who taught me that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is tell the truth, even when everyone wants you to stay quiet. "I'm so proud of you." We clinked glasses, and I felt tears prick my eyes. Good tears this time. Grateful tears. "I couldn't have done any of it without you," I said. "You believed me, you helped me. You never questioned whether I was doing the right thing." "Because you were doing the right thing, and I'll fight anyone who says otherwise." We ate bagels and talked about everything and nothing. Her work, my volunteer activities, the book we'd both just finished reading. Easy conversation between a mother and daughter who'd grown even closer through adversity. "I have something for you," Claire said, pulling out a wrapped package. "Open it." I unwrapped it carefully to find a beautiful leather-bound journal. On the front, in gold lettering, were the words, "The truth will set you free." "I thought you might want to write down your story," Claire said. "Not for anyone else, just for you. To process everything, to remember how strong you were, to have a record of this transformation." "This is perfect," I said, running my fingers over the smooth leather. "Thank you, honey. There's something else." She handed me an envelope. Inside was a brochure for a 2-week Mediterranean cruise leaving in March. There was also a printout of a booking confirmation. "I booked us a cabin," Claire said, grinning. "Just you and me. Greece, Italy, Croatia. We're going on an adventure." "Claire, this is too much." "It's not too much. You spent 3 years being lied to, and then you spent 6 months healing. You deserve something amazing. We both do." I hugged her tight, overwhelmed by gratitude. A cruise. An adventure. Something to look forward to, something that had nothing to do with Rob or Linda or betrayal or revenge. Just a mother and daughter exploring the world together. After Claire left to run errands, I spent the afternoon on the hiking trail with my Saturday group. We climbed to the top of a ridge that overlooked the city, and I stood there breathing hard, feeling accomplished, feeling alive. One of the women, Barbara, came to stand beside me. "You're different from when you first joined the group," she observed. "You were so quiet back then. Now you're always laughing, always willing to try the harder trails." "I went through something difficult," I said, "and came out the other side. Whatever it was good for you. You're glowing." That evening, I met my book club friends at a cozy Italian restaurant downtown. There were 7 of us, women ranging in age from 55 to 73, all intelligent, funny, and fiercely loyal. They decorated our table with balloons and brought me a cake. We ordered wine and pasta and spent 3 hours laughing and talking. They asked about my volunteer work, my hiking, my plans for the future. No one mentioned Rob or Linda. We'd talked about it months ago, and they'd all supported me completely. But now it was old news, ancient history. I was more than that story. I was a woman with interests and hobbies and dreams. "I have an announcement," I said as we were finishing dessert. "I'm going to run for the library board." The table erupted in cheers. "That's wonderful," my friend Patricia exclaimed. "You'd be perfect for that." "I think so too. I've spent my whole life loving libraries, and I want to make sure they continue to serve the community, especially programs for kids and seniors." "You have my vote," Barbara from the hiking group said. "Actually, you have all our votes. We'll campaign for you." As I drove home that night, full of good food and wine and friendship, I felt a profound sense of contentment. This was my life now. Full, rich, meaningful. built on honesty and authenticity and real connections. I thought about Linda sometimes, usually late at night when I couldn't sleep. I wondered if she was happy in Sacramento, if she'd found peace, if she understood the magnitude of what she'd destroyed. But those thoughts were fleeting, curiosity more than actual concern. She'd made her choices. I'd made mine. We were living in the consequences. I thought about Rob even less. He'd been a chapter in my life that had ended badly, but he'd taught me valuable lessons about trusting my instincts and demanding honesty. For that, I was almost grateful. Almost. When I got home, I made tea and settled on the couch with the journal Claire had given me. I opened to the first page and began to write. This is the story of how I discovered betrayal, chose revenge, and found myself in the process. This is the story of the day I stopped being the woman who kept quiet for the sake of peace and became the woman who demanded truth no matter the cost. I wrote for 2 hours, pouring out the entire experience. The discovery, the surveillance, the planning, the exposure, the aftermath, every emotion, every decision, every moment of doubt and strength. When I finally set down my pen, it was past midnight. My hand was cramping, but I felt lighter. The story was out of my head and onto paper, where I could see it objectively. I'd been brave. I'd been strategic. I'd been human, flawed and hurt and angry and determined. And I'd survived, more than survived. I'd thrived. The next morning, I woke up to a new week, a new chapter. I made breakfast, fed the birds, and checked my email. There was a message from the library board thanking me for my application and inviting me to interview the following week. There was also an email from a woman named Helen who'd heard about me through the community grapevine. She was 72 and going through a divorce after discovering her husband's affair. She asked if we could meet for coffee, if I could share how I'd gotten through my own betrayal. I stared at the email for a long time. Then I replied, I'd be happy to meet. How about Thursday at 10 a.m. at the coffee shop on Main Street? This was what healing looked like. Not forgetting what had happened, but using it to help others. Not staying bitter, but becoming better. Not being defined by betrayal, but refined by how I'd responded to it. Over the next few weeks, life continued its steady forward motion. I met with Helen and shared my story. She cried, thanked me, said she'd never thought about demanding public accountability. I told her every situation was different, but she should trust her instincts about what she needed for closure. I had my library board interview and was offered the position. I accepted immediately. I prepared for the Mediterranean cruise with Claire, buying new clothes and a fancy camera, reading guidebooks about ancient ruins and coastal villages. And I continued to show up for myself every single day, hiking, volunteering, reading, writing in my journal, spending time with people who valued me. One December afternoon, I was at the library helping with the holiday book drive when I saw a familiar face. It was Rob's friend Michael, someone I'd met several times during my relationship with Rob. He saw me and hesitated, clearly uncertain whether to approach. I made the decision for him and walked over. Hello. Hi. How are you? How good?
Good. Really good.
He shifted uncomfortably. I heard about what happened with Rob and your sister. Thank you. For what it's worth, I think what you did took guts. Rob deserved to be exposed. I was surprised. You're not angry with me. Angry. No, I'm angry with Rob. He lied to me too, you know. Told me he was single when he was actually dating 2 women. I don't have time for people like that in my life anymore. Neither do I. Michael smiled. Happy. I am happy. Good. You deserve to be. After he left, I thought about that word deserve. For so long I'd wondered if I deserved love, deserved loyalty, deserved honesty. Now I knew the answer was yes, but more importantly, I knew I didn't need anyone else to give me those things. I could give them to myself. Christmas came and went in a warm blur of family gatherings. Aunt Beatrice hosted dinner at her house, and I sat in the place of honor at her right hand. The family toasted to her health, to the year ahead, to new beginnings. No one mentioned Linda's absence. She'd become a ghost in our family story, present in memory but absent from our lives. As the year drew to a close, I found myself reflecting on everything that had changed. 12 months ago, I'd been dating Rob, believing I was in a committed relationship, trusting my sister completely. I'd been comfortable but not necessarily happy, settled but not fulfilled. Now I was single, stronger, more connected to my real family and friends than ever before. I had purpose, passion, plans for the future. I'd learned that I could survive anything, that I could stand up for myself, that I could demand the truth even when others wanted me to stay silent. On New Year's Eve, Claire and I watched the fireworks from my back porch, wrapped in blankets and sipping hot chocolate. "What are your resolutions for the new year?" she asked. I thought about it. To keep trusting myself. To keep moving forward without looking back. Those are perfect. "What about you?" "To be more like my mom," she said, squeezing my hand. Brave, strong, and unwilling to accept anything less than I deserve. As midnight approached and fireworks lit up the sky, I made a silent promise to myself. I would never again make myself small for someone else's comfort. I would never again ignore my instincts to keep the peace. I would never again let anyone, boyfriend, sister, friend, or stranger, treat me like I didn't matter. Because I did matter. I always had. It had just taken betrayal, exposure, and months of healing to remember it. The fireworks exploded overhead in brilliant colors: red, gold, silver, blue. Each burst felt like a celebration, like the universe itself was acknowledging my transformation. This was my life now. Honest, authentic, free. And it was better than anything I could have imagined a year ago. The story of Rob and Linda's betrayal would always be part of my history. But it wasn't my whole story. It was just the chapter where I learned how strong I really was. The next chapters, the ones I was writing now, were about joy, purpose, connection, and the beautiful life you can build when you refuse to accept anything less than truth. I raised my hot chocolate to the sky and whispered a toast to myself, to new beginnings, to honest endings, to the courage to demand both. And somewhere in the distance, I swear I heard the universe whisper back, "You deserve it all."